Hello and welcome to the THC Show. I'm Neil Magnuson, your host, and this is a show where we talk about truth, hope, and change as well as THC. It's all about the truths, the hopes, and the changes around THC. On the show today, we'll have 8 out of 10 Glenn from Cannabis.ca join us, and Jerry Martin will be here for the Martin Medical Moment. Talk a little bit about what he's been doing in his downtime while we wait for the court decision, which will happen after the closing arguments in September, so we're not sure when that's going to happen. We'll also update the Healing Wave CSP doobie van and update you on what's going on with our pursuit of a community-based low barrier access cannabis shop. And that's kind of the theme of exactly what we're doing every week, is continuing on that trek to hopefully one day achieve government permission to provide cannabis in a way that is easily accessible to the poor people and the daily users and those types of individuals who at this point have been locked out of so-called legalization for sure, along with a bunch of growers and sellers of cannabis that would like to be doing that but are also shut out of the marketplace or continuing to be criminalized for that behavior in a marketplace where the government gets to do it legally, which is just basically crazy. So the theme for us for a long time has been overgrow the government. And that has got to continue. That is the way we've gotten to where we are now. Just grow, baby, grow. It's all about growing. I mean, we're all seeds that are growing ourselves. I'm just a seed planting seeds, actually. Seeds are produced in many forms, right? They're berries and they're nuts and they're flowers, the fruits and sperm. Just about every living thing is here because it started as a seed that managed to take root, get fertilized, and grow successfully or not. And so growing is such a crucial thing on this planet. I mean, that's what life is. Life grows, and it's all about growing, and us growing as individuals as well. I said I'm just a seed planting seeds, and that's true because ideas are seeds as well. And when I'm talking to people, when I'm going around and trying to influence the influencers, I'm usually trying to plant ideas in the form of just little memes and stories and glimpses into my passion and all of those things, which can grow into other things down the road for the people that I talk to and eventually cause the change that we're looking for. So that's where I place my hope, is in the seeds that I'm able to plant and that we're all able to plant. There's an interesting saying that says they tried to bury us, but they didn't realize we were seeds. And that's why overgrow the government is the mantra and is the thing. Growing cannabis plants is an amazing thing to do. Well, growing any plants. I mean, if you're growing your own vegetables and fruits, that's also, and herbs, that's also a very wonderful thing to do. The return on investment is very high. With cannabis, it's extremely high, because if you want to go out and purchase the cannabis instead of growing it, in today's world, because of prohibition, which is still in effect with all the illegal cannabis that's still out there, and with legalization still wanting to maintain even higher than prohibition prices, the price of cannabis is through the roof with respect to other fruits, vegetables, and herbs that you might want to grow for yourself. And so it's a good investment in your time to grow cannabis if you're going to use it anyway. If you're going to have to go and purchase it somewhere, unless you've got a really good hookup, or some growers, or you're an activist, or you've got some way to get cannabis relatively easily, it's expensive and hard to get, and dangerous to get if you're not getting it in the legal marketplace, and probably even dangerous in the legal marketplace because you just never know what you're getting. I know today there's another big recall of legal pre-rolled joints going on. I'm not sure how you managed to get that through your quality control people, but somehow they managed to roll up a whole bunch of moldy joints and put that out into the marketplace. So I'm not sure it's safe to consume weed that's so-called legal, but at least you're not going to get dragged through the courts with all of that. You're just going to pay your fine up front. But so growing cannabis is really a very financially lucrative thing to do, depending on how much you can grow. But even small amounts. I mean, if you just grow your 4 plants and you grow them, rather well, you can produce quite a bit of cannabis for yourself that would otherwise cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So it's really beneficial financially to grow cannabis, especially. but also for all your other fruits and vegetables and herbs, if you can find creative ways to grow, if you have some space. Because when you're growing for yourself, there's a couple things that happen there. One, you get to know what's in the stuff that you're consuming. You know whether you flush those things properly, whether you use the right amounts of fertilizer, whether you're growing organic, or just how you're producing it, so you can control that. And the other one is that there's a very definite therapeutic value to growing plants. There's just something about it, and especially if you're growing your own food, or especially if you're growing your own medicine. There's something very therapeutic about that whole process, about caring for those plants and nurturing them and allowing them to grow properly and looking after the things that happen along the way. It's much like your own life, nurturing your own life and trying to help yourself grow the best that you can and dealing with the things along the way. You get to do that externally in caring for these plants, which are going to turn around and then care for you afterwards and help you care for yourself afterwards. So it's a very therapeutic thing to do. That's one of the main comments and things that I got as I traveled across the country on the Freedom Tours over the years, is meeting so many people and going into their gardens and just being able to feel that sense of pride, that sense of I'm growing these, this is my medicine, look at what I've done here, and very interested in talking about how careful they were to set up a really good room and how careful they are to go by the right protocols of giving the right nutrients and the right spectrums and all those things. People really do care about the growing that they're doing, that is in turn caring for themselves, both financially and physically and emotionally and all those things. So it's a very rewarding thing to be doing, and certainly it's a natural right of human beings on this planet to be able to grow for themselves, to grow whatever you want, to get yourself a pot and get some dirt and put a seed in there. I mean, how can anybody ever tell you you can't do that? I mean, that's just ludicrous. To be in a world where we've been prohibited from growing this one particular plant, and no, it's not stinging nettle, and no, it doesn't have thorns on it, and no, it won't kill you, in any way, shape, or form if you misuse it. In fact, it's like the most beneficial plant on the planet, that is also the most benign substance found in nature, has no ability to kill anybody, no matter how much you ingest, and it is so beneficial in so many ways. This plant has been the plant that governments around the world, tyrannies and dictatorships, but even democracies, have decided that it's okay to spend huge amounts of money using a harm maximization model of going after people and penalizing them and harming them and just hurting them in so many ways, to keep them from producing or distributing or using a plant that the use of and the sale of and the production of is not causing any problems for society, is not something that has harms associated with it at all. The only reason that it is prohibited, I mean, that's not what they said, of course, but the only real reason that it was ever prohibited is because of its value, because of its ability to produce things that other people want to be able to patent other things for and things like that. It also became a racist tool, there's no question about that. It became a tool that governments and corporations and racists and other people could use to put down the competition, to put down minorities, and so it's been all of that. But never has there been ever anything put forward that would justify using the criminal law and harsh penalties to deal with people that are producing, selling, or consuming cannabis. It's one of the most illogical things in our world here. Certainly one of the biggest stories, if the main media wasn't so corrupted by the same powers that be that have corrupted the pot laws and our governments over these decades, then it would be one of the biggest stories that's out there. There are a lot of stories being told. It is big news, but it's not yet reached that status of the biggest news that it really should. Because if you totaled up the amount of money that's been wasted trying to prohibit this plant, to annihilate this plant, to keep people from using it, if you totaled up the amount of harm that was done to individuals, some of those costs are even impossible to attribute or understand how high they are. When you ruin someone's life, when you ruin the relationship with their loved ones, when you ruin their relationship with their family, when you you cost them their job, when you cost them their reputation, their ability to travel, their ability to get jobs, their ability to be accepted. The stigmatization of people using cannabis over the years to protect the interests of those people that want to sell you their patented stuff and not have cannabis in the marketplace is just absurdly high. Impossible to know how high. It's not even just in North America. It's around the world. It's global. I mean, there's countries that have executed numerous people for simple possession of a couple ounces of cannabis, and certainly for larger amounts than that as well. But executed people because they have this plant. There's no victims, there's no hospital wards full of people that are messed up on it, and we have that for other things, and yet we don't use the criminal law to prohibit those. We've got cigarettes, commercial cigarettes, known to be killing several million people, human beings, every 12 months, known to be the #1 cause of hospitalizations in Canada because of problems with breathing and heart and the other things that commercial tobacco affects. Yet, you know, you can buy those things in grocery stores and gas stations, everywhere, anywhere, because you should be able to, even though it kills people, even though it's harmful. You're a free human being, and if you demand to have something, then you should have it. I'm not so sure that commercial cigarettes should be allowed to be sold with all of the harmful chemical additives that are put into that. I mean, that doesn't make much sense, do you think? Like, there are CSA standards for just about everything in the marketplace, but yet here we have this commodity that's sold to people that has all kinds of health warnings on it, but there's no serious restrictions as to where you can buy it. There's no ridiculous price attached to it, although it probably still is ridiculous to pay whatever you pay these days for a package of cigarettes. I don't know what that would be, but I do know it's far less than the price you would pay for cannabis in a government store. And you don't have to go to government stores to get cigarettes, even though cigarettes are the things that are deadly, and cannabis is the stuff that's really helping people, and we don't have any problems in society based on cannabis use, but we have a whole bunch of problems in society based on cigarette use. But you put those two regulation regimes side by side, and you would think that cannabis must be just this horrible substance, and it has to be contagious and explosive and you know, really deadly and hard to use properly and dangerous as could be for vulnerable people or sick people or children. And yet that's not the case at all. And then there's alcohol, also available all over the place on patios and restaurants, bars, liquor stores, pubs, everywhere. I mean, through most of the United States and Canada, sold in grocery stores. Not that hard to get. Yes, there's age restrictions on it, but I started drinking when I was 15. I had no trouble getting alcohol. I got lots of people to bootleg for me. We found curling rinks where they used a lot of alcohol, where we could steal booze out of the cars and the lockers. And, you know, when you're young, if you want something, you're going to get it. But, you know, alcohol is this commodity that, you know, can be used with great success. Lots of people love their relationship with alcohol. They use it in ways that enhances their life. It makes things better. Helps them probably drown their sorrows when they need to, helps them have a good laugh time when they need that, or, you know, whatever fun they want to have. I'm sure that lots of people use alcohol successfully. I'm sure that's one of the reasons why alcohol is as popular as it is because a lot of people have fun with it. It works for a lot of people in a lot of ways. It also doesn't work for a lot of people in a lot of ways. There's a lot of people that have serious issues with alcohol. There's a lot of societal problems. We have a lot of calls out to the police for interventions that are all based on alcohol. There's a lot of people that die of alcohol. There's actually hundreds of people that die in British Columbia every year from alcohol poisoning. Just the actual consumption of alcohol is what kills them. You never hear anything about that because it's not in anybody's best interest to tell you that. It's not some ongoing thing that they can get money for or use to justify. They just want to sell alcohol because it's a big cash cow for them. Lots of people demand it. Can you imagine if they prohibited it, what would happen? The marches, the rallies, the protests that would happen nowadays about not being able to get alcohol. And those people would be drunk while they're doing their protesting, and we all know where that could go because it's where it always goes. We have fireworks here in Vancouver, and every single time we have those fireworks, there's numerous people arrested for alcohol infractions. And that's not for having alcohol that's open. That's for doing things, violent things, getting into fights, damaging vehicles. All kinds of stuff goes on because of alcohol. It was years and years ago, early in my activism career, when I was at the fireworks in Vancouver and walking and talking to a group of VPD officers. And I had them tell me point blank, they wished cannabis was legal and booze was illegal, because booze causes them all kinds of problems, especially on nights when they have fireworks, and cannabis does not. So here's this other commodity that is not only available, easy access, no limits on how much you can have. The potencies are quite strong for a lot of alcohol that you can buy. It doesn't take much to kill yourself with that. There's no, ongoing criminal cases all across Canada with young people being brought before the courts because they were found to have some alcohol. It happens occasionally, but it's nowhere near what's going on with people found in possession of cannabis. And so that's just another ludicrous example. And then there's pharmaceutical drugs. Many of them not requiring prescription, lots of them requiring prescription. Deadly as can be, easy to overdose on, easy to misuse. Some of it's very addictive. There's so many problems with prescription drugs that we have going on in our society that are, somewhat controlled by doctors with respect to the more powerful ones that you can get. But there's a lot of stuff that you can get just walking into a drugstore. I mean, you can fill your boots with all kinds of stuff that can kill you quickly, and many people do. There's a whole bunch of deaths that are associated with using pharmaceutical drugs. There's a whole bunch of deaths that are caused by using pharmaceuticals when they're prescribed properly and taken as prescribed. Yet there's no onus on the medical profession to report these things. And you don't have Bonnie Henry up there every day talking about how many people died today because they were killed by pharmaceuticals that they were using the way they were prescribed, and apparently they were prescribed properly. Not to mention all the people that don't use them properly and all the times they're not prescribed properly. So we live in a world where there's just this crazy thing going on, where there's all these deadly things going on. I don't even want to touch on sugar, but I mean type 2 diabetes, late onset diabetes, and the havoc that wreaks in people's lives, and the amount of costs to our healthcare because of that, and the obesity levels and all the health issues that relate from that. And sugar, available easy, everywhere, cheap, glorified like crazy, and so is alcohol, by the way. And so there's all these really deadly things out there in our environment that we as free adult human beings are able to navigate through. Some things have warnings on them, and we appreciate that, and some things, our government restricts in ways that make sense, and we appreciate that. But this whole idea of trying to prohibit illegal cannabis, to only allow, in this case, the government to sell recreational cannabis, and only people with doctor's notes to get medical cannabis, and thankfully you can grow your own, but lots of places you can't. And for decades you could not only not grow your own, but you couldn't buy it anywhere without being a criminal. And still today that's going on in lots of different places. Only about half the United States have access to cannabis properly through government channels, and the rest of them are all still illegal, and some of them are still involved in heavy penalties for people. 419. So grow yourself the best stuff you can grow, and have fun doing it. And if you don't think you can grow, that's only because you haven't tried enough. And if you've grown and not done well, that's because you were just practicing, and there's lots of lessons and all of that. I highly recommend you grow. I want to give a big shout out to Johnny B. He's got this grow challenge going on. He's been providing us here at the CSP with these plants that we've been giving away to people, totally making people's days. Let's grow a whole bunch of plants, make a bunch of clones of the real good female plants, give those things away or sell them real cheap to people. Let's encourage everybody to grow, and let's continue to grow ourselves as a movement, as individuals, as to how we get our rights back and how we address these ridiculous laws that we were born into, that a lot of people just don't understand, that are completely outrageous, and we should not accept these things. Let's continue to fight to get our rights to be able to grow and to use whatever substances that we want, and to be able to open our minds in whatever way we want, or relax in whatever way we want. We're just really supposed to be free human beings, and the fact that we can't do all of these things speaks to the fact that we've been kidnapped long time before any of us were born by the financial elite, who have dictated their will over us for a very long time, And even though we've won lots of gains and come a long way, we are still far from free. And freedom is the bottom line. So let's grow ourselves to freedom here, and let's all get in this together. It is 4:20. That means Glenn Wells is here from cannamatch.ca. How you doing, Glenn?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Grow a plant.
Yes, for sure.
Roll up a joint, pass it down the line.
So this is the time when, thanks to one of our regular sponsors, I get to smoke some other type of weed.
Yep.
That is being provided here by the Canada
Cannabis Center.
Cannabis Canada.
It's CCC. It's a little hard for
Cannabis
this
Center.
smokers.
Just have to try it a few times. They've been very good to us, very good to the CSP for a while. Decided to be sponsors of the show, and they're providing us with samples of what's available on the website there.
Yeah.
And I highly recommend you go and check out that website. Read the fine print properly. Read all what's there about what the deal is. Make sure you understand the deal correctly. But it's a good deal. And
you got some what?
So what have I got here?
So was it pink
Lemon-
cream? Oh,
lemon cream.
Yeah. And I
It
got some
smelled
strong
really good.
bush. Oh,
Strong
It
bush.
never smelled good when you were cutting that
I
up.
don't know
That
who
was
names
really-
this stuff.
I don't know who named it. Probably the Cannabis Center.
Strong bush.
It's strong bush. You could just go
It's like-
with so many
It's
one-liners.
like the one
with
buddy
this
says to
one
the other
joint.
buddy, boy, that was some good bush there, and the other buddy says, yeah, well, I found it a bit strong. I don't know what we're talking about.
Anyways, but they're doing something nice for us. I have this important
That's a
announcement.
nice case.
Yeah.
We have an important announcement
Yeah,
from our sponsor.
From Canada Cannabis Center. So they would like you to go check out their site and make an order. And when you place your order and click complete, there will be a little box. And I'm about to give you a code. And with that code, you put that code in that box, and you could watch your shipping charge go to absolutely zero.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yes, that is a big deal.
And that's why I want you to read everything carefully.
Yeah. So one of you out there is going to get a free amount of medicine, basically, and it already is free on his site. So I'm about to send out the code. I'm going to give you guys a minute to get your mouses ready, get that finger, because as soon as I put that out, the first person who uses that code gets it. So but next week, we'll give you a new code.
You don't have one written for me, though, do you?
No, it's the same one as last week. Do we have it?
I know. I have it, but not handy, because
we were
that
talking
didn't
about that
occur to me
earlier, but
until
then
just now.
Yeah. So are you guys ready?
So I can't show you. You're going to have to, check the shot.
Yeah.
Theoretically, you could write it down.
Yeah.
You can write it down.
I'll do that. I'll write that.
Write it down on your
A
phone.
little
and
public
hold it
service
up.
here.
There's a lot
All
of
right,
things
you ready?
to do.
People, let's write this down.
Here, can you see it? Without me saying it, right there?
All right.
In lowercase.
I got you.
Okay, Neil's got it written down.
I do, yeah.
All right, you ready? We're going to send it out. You guys
I gotta
ready?
do this first.
Make sure you don't burn yourself with your joints. I know you're smoking at the same time.
Are you ready?
All right, here we go. 1,
Push.
2, 3, go. There it goes. All right, there's the code. It's also in the comments and a link to the site. First person that puts this code in after completing an order may get a free shipping charge. And that is a lot. You like that? All right. Good luck, everybody.
Give anybody
And
more time?
Next,
Is that
well,
enough?
yeah, they've got it. They'll watch it. Yeah, there you go. It's also in the comments. The next week
Yeah.
we will have a new code. So keep coming back to the show, and we'll be doing this every week.
Very good.
As they are our full-time sponsors now.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you. And this strong bush is pretty strong.
Now, this lemon cream is very nice.
Yes, man, that even
And actually, you notice it as soon as you light it.
Yeah.
There's that really nice taste to it.
Yeah.
You know, I like that when it
so it
does that.
tasted like it smelled.
Yeah, pretty
Yes,
much.
that's always important, right?
So Cannabis Day.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Oh, that's fun. And you asked me to do a speech. So now I actually thought of a speech that I might be able to do.
Yeah, but it's over now.
I know.
There's always next year. And
Always
not only
next
next year, we have BC Bud Day coming up. And
Yep.
that's why I wanted to mention Cannabis Day. BC Bud Day, we love BC Bud Day.
I love BC Bud.
And it's nice to have another opportunity to get together as a community, to protest what's going on, and to help people get access to stuff, and to continue to fight for proper access. So that's going on, and it's going to be at Sunset Beach again.
Yep. We had fun there. And
You know, it's a weather thing for me.
yes.
If it's a hot day, bring lots of water, bring an umbrella. You know, there's not much shade there at all.
Sunscreen.
sunscreen is maybe a good idea.
Yep, some sunscreen, yeah.
Probably a good idea, but water certainly is a good idea.
Yep, stay
And
hydrated.
yeah, stay hydrated. If it's a hot day, it can be very hot down there on the beach, so keep that in mind. If it's a day like Cannabis Day, where it's overcast,
It was nice.
that was nice all day.
Yeah.
Boy, that works out really, really well.
We'll see.
We'll
It'll
see.
be August the 2nd, right?
August the 2nd,
Monday, August. What time?
I imagine they'll get going around 11, although we thought that about Cannabis Day and the generator didn't
Yes.
work and there wasn't a backup.
That's technical difficulties beyond our control.
Yep. All things being equal, perhaps lessons learned this time. And around 11 o'clock, the music will start and the speeches will start, and we'll have a day of protesting and celebrating and joining together with other members of our community, which is always fun to do.
And it is really nice. There's a lot more people there, I guess, than the other place where we were doing it before, Thornton Park, right?
I don't know.
You think so? Well, I think because
I don't know.
because people go to the beach just for the beach, they don't expect
Yeah,
to
but
find
Thornton
an
Park-
open market, right?
That's true.
So now if there were cannabis users, they go, oh wow, it's good that we came to the beach today because now I just
It's
squirted
true.
some
I
non-government
mean, I'll give it
stuff,
to you.
right?
There's
more people
there
there
is
like
more
that.
people coming through.
Yes,
But at Thornton Park, there is the SkyTrain station.
yes,
But that pretty much means people have to get off there.
Yeah.
But they do notice it as they're coming in. You can see all the tents and stuff set
Yeah.
up there. So they do know there's something going on there. And these days, you know, what really matters is that people get on their phones and say, hey, there's a farmer's market of cannabis going on down
We'll
here.
be
It's
doing
a real
that.
cool time. Come on down.
yeah,
And then it doesn't matter where it is, people will come there.
yeah.
So I like the idea of the SkyTrain station at Thornton Park. I certainly like the shade that's there. The goose poop is a bit much. There is goose poop
This is
at
Canada
the
for you,
beach
right?
too.
Yeah, but they were doing it in the parking lot, not so much in the grass, I guess.
Yeah. So, but you know, we lived with the goose poop
Yeah.
the other years that we were there. I really liked Thornton Park, and like I said, I like the fact that there's a SkyTrain station right there. The beach is a little harder to get to, harder to park at, all of that. I think it's a done deal. The poster's been made up. It's out of my hands. I'm willing to help out in any way, but
And
I'm
we
not the
we
one
must say
calling
thank
the
you to those park rangers that were really, really nice to us on Cannabis Day.
They were.
They were
very good.
very, very cooperative.
Yeah.
Everything, as long as we did what they asked, they were okay with what was going on. They
The
shut
VPD
up.
too.
Yeah.
They didn't bother anybody.
No.
I had a good talk with the senior guy there. He said, you know, we're going to let you have your day here. We're
Yeah.
going to leave you alone. There was officers around there.
Yeah, but they
That's
disappeared
fine.
a little while later in the afternoon because I noticed they weren't standing on the hill anymore.
Yeah,
So-
there was a couple officers there, and maybe there should be.
Yeah.
I like the advice that I was given by that senior VPD guy. He said, be careful about thieves. You know,
Yeah.
you got your people have stuff set up on tables here,
Yeah,
and there's money
be careful.
changing hands. You know, be careful about thieves. And we did have an issue at 420 where there was some guys shaking some people down.
Okay, I
at
have a
one point.
question now. So now that they're allowed to drink from 9 o'clock or 11 in the morning till 9 in the evening in Stanley Park, is Stanley Park encompassed by First Beach, Sunset Beach, and all that? Is that considered Stanley Park? Or
Is
is
it
there
all-
a certain park that's called Stanley Park?
Is it even all of Stanley Park?
I don't know. They just said
You know, it might
Stanley
just be
Park.
Second Beach. Or
They didn't
something
say
like
anything.
that.
They just said Stanley Park.
Stanley Park. eh?
Yeah, it's one of the new
So
22
you can go and
places.
drink
that-
in Stanley Park.
Open drinking,
Period.
right? Yes, from 11 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock at night. They're
Wow.
trying this out. It's a test pilot thing.
I see.
Kitsilano also. Kitsilano was doing, but there's a bunch of 20 other ones all around Vancouver that they're trying.
You know,
this
in my
out.
opening monologue, I talked about the discrepancies between the regulations to these other
Yeah,
substances.
we should have some fucking
And,
cannabis spots now,
You know,
right?
the alcohol regulations are not great.
No.
There's still a lot of restrictions that probably shouldn't be there for free people,
Yeah.
as long as they act responsibly. But I'm kind of happy to have alcohol at least where it is, and,
Yeah.
and further expansions of it, because that's what we can compare it to with respect to cannabis. Well, if the
Yeah.
alcohol people can have this, well then the cannabis people should.
Yeah,
be able
yeah,
to have
because
it as
it's
well.
just as legal as their alcohol, right?
Well, it's certainly a lot less benign, potentially
Well, they say they're trying to
problematic.
compare it to Europe. And apparently in Europe, on the beaches, you're allowed to have
Yeah.
wine and beer, and people are very responsible about it. So this is what they're trying to do in our parks here. So we'll see if that works. But yeah, that works. Like I was watching the same news, I'm thinking, well, then it should be okay for cannabis because they're now.
It's long overdue that the government takes the training wheels off of us in a lot of different aspects. They always make laws and regulations catering to the lowest common denominator of
Yeah.
people, and not giving the vast majority of people the credit for being as intelligent as they are. And by now, you would think there would be ways to deal better with those people who maybe aren't quite up to speed. But for the most of the rest of us that are up to speed on how to live our lives, we don't need all this government interference,
No, we
and
don't.
it's costing us a lot of money, and it's really corrupt for the most part.
Maybe in the beginning governments were good, but I think as we've become progressively smarter and smarter, we become more independent too.
It really
and
is time.
Maybe the government's getting a little bit scared about that too.
I'm sure they would, because we're talking about reducing the size and influence of government and their powers and much of that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's just the fact of it, that's going to have to happen. They're going to get less resources to do less things with as we mature as a society. But we really do need to have a good rethink of this democracy that we've been evolving the wrong way now for a number of decades, where the power of government has gotten more and more, the laws have gotten more and more unreasonable, the influence of corporations and the financial elite has gotten more corrupt and more obvious. And so, it's time to have a rethink of all of these things.
And now, Mr. Trudeau, they're saying that there's going to be an election probably late summer.
Probably.
Yeah, and that's because the Green Party is down and out. So now there's only votes for NDP and Liberals and PC. So
it'll all be political. That's what I know.
It always is.
They'll decide to have an election not on anything other than when they think they can win it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. They're saying this old Trudeau guy has no history with people or anything. So,
but Trudeau's not looking good anyway. And I don't know what to say. I don't know what the other options are. Well, nobody in the polls. He doesn't have that big an
advantage. He had 40% approval and a 39% disapproval. He was like 50-50.
I guess it depends on who's doing the polls. And
just the recent one 2 days ago.
It was just a couple of days ago on the radio. They were saying he was only 7 points ahead of the Conservatives.
Yeah.
And that's not a very big lead.
No.
So, but whatever. I don't know what to think. There's no one to vote for, in my opinion. Trudeau lied to us. He's a scumbag. And they're all scumbags. They've always been all scumbags. And they're operating just as puppets for those rich people that really don't give a shit about anything except padding their own pockets and controlling people in ways that make them go, ha-ha, or something like that. But anyway, how we get out of this, I'm not sure. But we need to have a rethink about our democracy. So thanks, Glenn. I appreciate that a lot. Cannabis.ca, by the way, if you don't know.
We're still waiting for app approval, but hopefully it'll be within the next couple of weeks.
One of these weeks it'll come
out.
You know app approval?
Yeah.
I wonder if we'll get our approval before you get your approval.
I don't know. I don't
I doubt it.
Google's like instant.
So really haven't had an app approval yet.
Apple's takes forever.
No, app for Google. It's been 2 weeks. He said it was going into review, and I would get an email saying when it was live. Yeah.
I used to upload a lot of them.
Well, maybe it takes longer now. There's more people out there. I'm not sure.
You guys can get together after the show and figure it out.
I'll just get all the Chameleon. They can do all that stuff. They talk to those people.
Cool.
All right, guys.
Thank you very much, Ben. I appreciate that.
See you next week.
All right. 420 session, so important for the show, for people in general. It's a great way to make sure that there's some ritual involved in imbibing in cannabis, because cannabis helps give you a little more clarity on some things. It helps to get a balance going on. It helps to reshuffle some of the things that are going on in your life. Many of the serious things that we think are serious are maybe not quite that serious, and sometimes it's good to have a little bit of levity and a little bit of different ways of looking at things. And I really value cannabis in my life for being able to do that for me, that when I'm bogged down seeing a thing in a particular way, and that's a stressful way of looking at it, sometimes I can calm down, go to a quiet place, and puff a few inhales of the magical vapor, and things get put into better perspective sometimes, and I really do appreciate that. The value of cannabis is immense in that aspect of life. The value of cannabis is immense in many, many aspects of life. As an industrial tool, it has many applications. What I just referred to is probably a spiritual tool, a way to reassess some of the ways you're thinking about things and the values that you're putting on things. Those are spiritual areas of your life that I think cannabis enhances greatly. Certainly, it also then extends to emotional, because some of the times when you need to go and sit down and have a few puffs of your magical vapors, there's emotional stuff going on, and cannabis can help with those emotions, help to calm people down, and those sorts of things. Putting things into better perspective also helps with your emotions. Stress in itself is an emotion. So there's the emotional side, and so the spiritual side, and the emotional side, and the industrial side. But the biggest one of all, of course, because as human beings and the animals that we care about, cannabis is a medicine. Cannabis was the #1 medicine for a long time in North America here, the #2 prescribed medicine in North America for a long time. It was then taken out of the pharmacopoeia, demonized and put into Schedule 1 in the United States as having no medical value whatsoever, even though for thousands of years it had been in the pharmacopoeia of so many different cultures around the world and other places around the world throughout history. And obviously a medicine. The fact that they tried to suppress information, they wouldn't allow studies to be done, they skewed the different studies that were being done, they lied through their teeth, basically is what they did over and over again, deciding that, to tell a lie can work, but to tell a big lie can work even better. So they said it had no medical value, and it has more medical value than anything else we're going to find in nature for sure. And all you have to do is Google endocannabinoid system, and you'll understand why that statement is so accurate. That cannabis is absolutely medicine for people and the pets that we love as well. And that, this has been denied to us for a very long time. There was a huge campaign trying to deceive us about the effects of cannabis and the benefits of cannabis. And we're working our way out of that. The truth is rising to the top, and it's been an amazing struggle going on for so long. The demonization, the criminalization of cannabis was an ongoing war that was waged, literally an absolute war, armed soldiers breaking into people's fortresses and homes, putting people into handcuffs and cages, stripping of their finances and their properties, and still going on today, still raging on today, although, we're making headway into it. We're getting better. There are cannabis stores all over different jurisdictions in Oregon and California and Colorado and so many other places, and now here in Canada as well, although the government stores that are popping up here are still something that the activists and the cannabis community are very unhappy about and needing to protest about. This legalization is not legalization, it's a continued criminalization with a segment carved out for the Trudeau cartel to be able to continue to profit on the sale of cannabis themselves while continuing to criminalize anybody else that would dare do that outside of their licensed regime. And so that this battle for the ability to use cannabis for all of its purposes, as I mentioned, the industrial and the emotional and the spiritual, but primarily the medical side, was extremely, extremely serious, because cannabis is such amazing medicine for human beings as it supplements our endocannabinoid system, the system whose job it is to go and make sure that everything's okay in the body. And so when things aren't okay, that's what you need, is your endocannabinoid system creating these cannabinoids to go out and reduce inflammation and deal with pain and correct the things that are wrong. And so the medical side of cannabis has been the most important for a long, long time. And we've carved that out over the years by brave people being willing to step up and not only provide for the sick and the suffering people that really need cannabis in their lives, but to do it in such an open and blatant fashion in the face of criminal prosecutions that it has become quite a thing that happened here in Canada. Started many years ago. It was hard to do. The Compassion Club opened up over 20 years ago, quite a bit over 20 years ago now, and it was hard fought. And it had to do things so by the book and do everything it could to insulate itself from criminal prosecution. And there was lawyers on board, the doctors on board, and the activists were on board. And we went through the courts and fought and established that as a thing. And so the Compassion Club led to other clubs and other dispensaries and other people that were willing to step forward and open dispensaries so that people that were sick, that were suffering, that needed cannabis, who otherwise their lives were no good, they started stepping up all over the place. And we ended up with a whole bunch of dispensaries that broke the law. And we're persecuted and we're harassed and threatened and penalized all through over the years of dispensaries. There was many battles that were fought over different dispensaries at different times for different reasons as the governments tried to push back against these things. But the formula was a good one. The formula was have doctors on board. The formula was if they raid you, open right back up again. Don't quit no matter what. Be willing to go to court. Be willing to get arrested. Be willing to lose it all because this is so important. This is the right thing to do. And for those of us and the many people that opened access points for people to get cannabis and have access to cannabis, very quickly if it was only a political battle to begin with, it becomes a very personal battle from that point on, because the operators of dispensaries get to really see, feel, and understand the plight of those people that have been literally dying to get access and suffering so much without proper access, that when they get it and when you're there and you've got a bunch of strains and some will work for them, and you've got topicals and you've got edibles and you've got concentrates and it's quality controlled and the people there care about you, and you can find those things, the amount of gratefulness that is put back is incredible. I mean, people constantly saying thank you so much for being here, and oh my God, this is gonna, and coming back and telling you how well they slept, and that now they can eat, and that their pain has subsided, and that they found that strain that's going to work, or that, you know, look at how my rash is cleared, or it dealt with so many things. So when you've had that going on for a little while as a dispensary operator, you become very close to that situation. You become very touched by these things. As a human being, you can't help but be touched by these things. And in but the rarest of cases, dispensary owners are ethical human beings that started to care because people were not getting access, but really cared once they really got an understanding of just what that means to people to get proper access. So this is the battle that's been fought all the way through. The medical access fight has been the one at the lead of this, the sharp edge of the wedge. And there's been a lot of pushback against that, as I said. The people that were running these dispensaries all felt that they were going to be included into a mainstream marketplace at some point not too far down the road. They were encouraged even more by Trudeau winning the election with a majority from a non-opposition party status to a majority party status on a platform of legalizing marijuana, where he stated clearly that the medical users would not have to worry about the implications of legalization, that they would be looked after for sure, and they're not. And they're not at all. That was the biggest lie, and that was the worst of the lies, because medical people are the ones that we care about the most. They're the ones that need being cared about the most. They're the ones that can least stand up for themselves and get what it is that they need, or even speak for what it is that they need. And we need to fight on behalf of them. And that was our big battle with legalization, with them at the very forefront of why we need to do this. And legalization has totally kicked them to the curb. It's devastated many medical users. There was hundreds of clubs, cannabis dispensaries, medical cannabis dispensaries, and now there's just a very, very small few of non-legal cannabis dispensaries that are available to people. And all of these places had thousands of members that now have very few places to go. And I've met many, many medical users since so-called legalization that are beside themselves, that are desperate, that are totally not having their needs looked after in the current marketplace. And so this is the big fight, and access to medical cannabis is what this show started out to be about. It's been the main theme from the beginning. It's now not just medical, but it's low barrier, but that is medical because there's no way to use cannabis in a non-medical way. The government tries to say that adult use, recreational use of cannabis is not medical, but any use of cannabis is supplementing your endocannabinoid system, and you can't help that. So it's going to help you sleep better whether you like it or not, plus a bunch of other things. And recreation is absolutely a subset, at least, of medicine. It's a preventative medicine. It's recreating yourself and preparing yourself for the next bout of whatever life is about to bring you. So that the idea that it's non-medical cannabis and that it's thousands and thousands of dollars per pound for just average cannabis, if that, maybe even less than average, seeing as how they're using chemicals to kill microbes and irradiating it for no good reason, because we've never had a problem with microbes on cannabis or needing to irradiate it in all the trillions and trillions of doses of cannabis that have been put out there. So anyway, that's what's been going on. And so the way that we've focused on that whole situation on this show is to highlight the journey of one particular dispensary owner, and that's why this next segment is called the Martin Medical Moment, because Jerry Martin was a dispensary owner in a small town in Saskatchewan, one of most backwoods places that you can imagine, wanting to try to help people get access, but a place where people need access to medical cannabis just as much as anywhere else. And Jerry, having roots there and understanding these things, and his path having led him to that situation, opened a dispensary in Whitewood, Saskatchewan, and for about 4 years was helping people get access to cannabis for medical purposes, using the very strict protocols, by the way, that were designed for the original Compassion Club by Philippe Lucas and Riel Kapler, that made the necessity for a confirmation of diagnosis by a medical practitioner one of the main components of it. And then all the other restrictions that we felt might be acceptable by government at the time. And Jerry Martin in his dispensary did exactly that as best that he could. Of course, like I say, being in a backwoods area like that, a backwards area like Saskatchewan, where they train the RCMP, where everybody's under the gun with a tight thumb, and he wanted to make sure that he was going to be able to survive as best he could, and so he did everything right as to his way of understanding, and he tried to do it the way that he felt should be done. He had listened to what Trudeau had to say about people operating in the gray area of dispensaries, and wanted to be as transparent as possible in his operations, which involved giving back to the community in profound ways, to the point where he was called the King of Compassion for all of his generosity in helping his town out in a number of different ways, from the fire hall to the Boys and Girls Clubs to all sorts of different things that he did in his town. But for the movement to gain proper access to cannabis in general throughout the activist community, Jerry was known as the King of Compassion for all the work that he did. And so in the end, and the end is not here yet, I guess. So, but the end of the dispensary happened with legalization, where he was told to cease and desist his operations there, a request that he politely denied, because there was no difference from one moment to the next. You're operating a dispensary at risk of criminal sanctions against you in that situation, and then legalization comes, and you're told to stop doing what you're doing, or you'll be illegal and at risk of criminal sanctions. So nothing changed. The only thing that would change if he did what he was ordered to do is that the 1,000 members that were there, that were so grateful every day for the services he was providing, would then not be able to get his services and not be able to get what they needed in their lives, and they would suffer for that, and many of them would even die over time because of that. And Jerry wasn't willing to make that change. He was willing to stay the course and still be illegal and continue to help these people, thinking that eventually sanity would rule. Eventually, you would think, right? Reason would come into play somewhere. They had lawyers working for him and negotiating with Health Canada and all these things going on, and yet reason did not win in the end. In the end, they brought in the Gestapo, and the bullies came and shut down people's access and took Jerry away in handcuffs and stole all of his stuff and seized his bank account and his cars and his properties, and forced him out of business, and then held charges over his head that would result in jail time, and threatened him continuously over this time, trying to coerce him into pleading guilty and taking maybe lesser amounts of jail time, or losing maybe not all of his stuff and the deals that they tried to present. But at no time did he take those deals. And over 40 appearances before the courts, by the way, leading up to an actual, not a day in court, but a day before a judge, where Jerry got to be cross-examined on his affidavit and his constitutional challenge against these laws, in an effort to get the courts to rule that people deserve storefront access and low barrier access to cannabis as medicine. And so that constitutional challenge is underway. Jerry, his other co-defendants, the medical experts and experts that they had as part of their defense or their application, had their affidavits in some cases cross-examined in a court proceeding that happened through an audio-visual feed for those involved, and an audio feed to those that wanted to listen in. And now closing arguments will happen in September, and we'll see when a decision happens after that. But there, in not too small a nutshell, is what's been going on with Jerry. Except Jerry's got a lot of other stuff going on as well, and I'd like to bring him on to update more to do with that than the other stuff, because the other update, I just gave it to you. He's waiting for September 16th, I believe, as the next date for final arguments, and then a decision after that in that court case. But there's other stuff that is really, really cool, that is so, so important, that Jerry is working on, and that's what I want to talk to him about today. So Jerry, come on into the show, my friend. Sorry to keep you waiting.
No worries.
I'm long-winded sometimes. I never know who I'm talking to, because people watch from around the world. I get people messaging me, and I think new people are probably watching every time. So I like to, do in previous episodes, sort of thing, or an update to where we are. And so I find myself repeating a lot of stuff over and over again. But it's important that everybody knows what this is about and what we're talking about. So that's why I do that. So how are you?
Good.
Good?
Good.
Anything you want to add to the court side of things, or that, or did I do a good job?
No, it's good. I know it's coming up pretty quick here.
It is.
8 weeks or so, or
Right.
yeah.
I remember when it was like 8 weeks or so till the first round.
I know,
You know,
man.
and now that's long gone.
It's like 5 years almost.
Time goes fast.
5 years in November.
This must be good weed from Canada Cannabis Center, because I smoked about 5 puffs of it, and then I started rambling on.
Even mine is really good. That was some strong bush.
And this is some lemony cream.
Lemon cream.
Yeah.
Lemony cream. He had the strong bush. I'm glad it was him, not me.
I'm not saying anything.
I know, we're so open to one-liners, I know.
I know, eh? That clarity of thought that you get from a good puff on cannabis, allows me to go all kinds of different directions. Yeah, and always into the same gutter mostly.
Yeah. Where my mind is most of the time.
Yeah, that seems to be life.
The man thing.
If it wasn't that, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's that internal desire is putting it way too lightly to plant some seeds.
Yeah, there you go.
It's
That's a good
all
metaphor
about
there.
planting seeds. I know. I'm just a growing seed, planting more seeds.
Planter, man.
I said earlier that the seeds I plant are ideas, and that is true. But there are other seeds that we're talking about that that we all want to plant as often as we can too, right? And that desire got us to here. I think I talked on last week's show about how love is at the center of that. That there's a serious, love is such a weird thing, isn't it? The emotional side of love is so powerful, it overwhelms me. And you must find, I know you're an emotional guy. Yeah, I fall in love real easy, and I got to be careful about that. I guard my heart very well.
I used to. Then, I don't know, man, experiences led me to be a little standoffish, I guess.
Oh, yeah, man. I am so less infatuated with love as what I used to be.
I'm over about the 60s now, and the free love, and the,
Like I say, I guard my heart pretty well because I know how that works, and it absolutely does take a person over.
Yeah.
Love
It's
is
very
like
consuming.
consuming.
You know what I mean? So
And then
if
now
I'm
I'm
going
in
to go
my
down
60s.
that road, I'm going to make sure, and then, I really want to go down that road.
Well, and like you said,
I give them the 90
well,
days,
the thing is,
man.
like you say, you've got experience now, right?
Yeah.
And when you don't have experience, that's when you're like 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and the desire is super overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught right up in the whole thing, and you plant seeds.
Yeah.
That's how we got here. That's what it's all about. We fall in love. We get like this crazy, overcome with emotion of this beautiful creature in front of us, and all we want to do is bang her into the ground. Wow.
Annie Barbie, you better say something to Annie Barbie.
I'm sorry, Annie. Well, no, I didn't swear, and I think that's mostly what Annie Barbie would be upset about. Annie Barbie was a fox in the day. You were smoking hot. I totally had a crush on my Annie Barbie. I'm sure she knew. And her and my Uncle Wes, they were a hot couple. I'm sure she can relate exactly to what I'm talking about, of how powerful that whole thing is when you're without experience, being led around by your genitalia and so easily swept up and planting seeds. And that's how we get here. Yeah. Now it doesn't matter if I plant seeds. My seeds ain't going nowhere. I've had my time, but when you have your time, boy, those are powerful emotions, that keep life on this planet going. And it's not just us, but all the other creatures on the planet. If you look at the mating rituals of some of these birds and other creatures and what they do to attract the mate, holy shit, man! There's a lot of creatures that all of us are totally engulfed with this strong desire to go and plant our seeds. Yeah. So with that, there's a segue from there into what, I want to talk about with you. And that is, that the mind is a funny thing. Emotions are crazy to control. There's so much that we are that we don't have a clue about how we got to be. The genetic predispositions that we bring with us from generation to generation that is just who we are. I mean, we're billions of years of life having manifested itself over and over and over again with procreation, with that whole, get horny, plant seeds, make things grow. And life has been growing like that, like all this time. And as human beings, like I say, we come into it with a bunch of predispositions. We come into it with a whole bunch of past experiences that are somehow in here.
And conditioning.
And conditioning happens probably before generational as well as now experiential.
Yeah.
And the experiential stuff that happens starts with fucking trauma. Gotta be. I mean, well, other than maybe inside the tummy, there's probably not much trauma as there becomes awareness.
Yeah, for sure. There's all the energy, man. So if
there might be fighting.
If the mother's having trauma,
if the mother's having trauma,
right?
the baby's having trauma. That's where I was being a little utopiastic there, where I was thinking that pregnant mothers, they just they just hug their babies and have fun and don't get stressed out. Holy shit, that's obviously not true, right?
Physiological response, right?
Yeah, so I'm sure there's some trauma happening for this, newly aware person, wondering what the fuck that fight is or what that noise is or what that this is or whatever. I'm sure there's some trauma. And then the whole birth experience, that's got to be trauma. Yeah. Getting pushed through a flipping canal, grabbed by your whatever's, and yanked out of there.
Oh, I thought you were talking about for the mother.
For her too. For everybody involved.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I was in the room.
Yeah.
It was stressful for me too, but I can just imagine for that tiny little creature that my wife managed to get cut out of her.
Yeah.
What an experience that was. It must have been so traumatic for little Dan, He came out, he wasn't crying, but he looked like my dad having a moment. That's what he kind of looked like. It's an old wrinkled up face, looked like my dad. My son Dan when he was born. They handed him right to me. Because she was a mess. It was horrible. She was late by a month.
That was a month late.
You too, eh?
Yeah, to perfectly.
So did you come out the regular way through the proper birth channel?
Yeah.
Because they had to cut her. They did an episiotomy.
I think so.
So they had to cut her open to get him out. He was too big.
Couple backflips there. I guess.
Wow. And they put him on this canvas cloth. Canvas. Like really rough. And right away thrust him into my arms. Because she was all cut up on the table and they had to deal with her quickly, right?
Yeah.
So they're like, they get him out. They put him on this really harsh canvas thing. They didn't have to smack him. He started crying because I guess the thing was harsh there, and he started sort of screaming a little bit. And that got him breathing, and so he was okay, and I had him. But it just struck me as how rough this thing was that they put him on.
I don't remember him smacking my kid. I don't think that would have went over well.
You're doing hitting my
I
kid.
was in an incubator right away.
Oh, yeah.
And they said, I went in to see him, and they said, there you go. And I said, there's something wrong, right? No, it was fine. So I said, no, there's something wrong with him, right? Because his little chest is gone. His esophagus grew into his windpipe, so he had no breathing.
Wow.
Yeah, so when to come all these doctors, ripped me out, and off to Toronto we went in a helicopter. Or no, the helicopter had no gas or something, so I had to take him by ambulance in the winter.
So he's only just, a day or two old at that point?
No, this is like an hour.
Hours old.
An hour, yeah.
Hours old, and already in trauma.
Yeah, we spent like 3.5 years or so going, pretty much living that sick kid syndrome.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the vibrations around that brand new person were crazy and intense.
His brother turned 27. Happy birthday to my son Dalton out there.
Birthday. Yeah. And so and that's my point. Is life is fucking full of trauma, man. Now I'm sorry, Annie Barbie.
Yeah.
But that one's also warranted because, God damn it, where is God in all of this, Annie Barbie? I love you, and but I've always had my thoughts about the realities of a world that's supposed to be created by an all-loving, all-knowing God that knows the beginning from the end, and therefore all of this is a plan, and some of this plan sucks, man.
It's a fucked up plan.
Sucks. It's a fucked up plan. Yes,
I
it
don't know
is.
if I
And
go
I
with
know
that
you'll
story.
forgive me for swearing. And I know that, anyway, I don't want to just talk to Annie Barbie. I love Annie Barbie, though. I want her to give me a call, okay? Life is short, and we need to talk about things. Time goes by, and all of a sudden people are gone. And I'm trying to find out her phone number, but I don't have it. And my Uncle Wes is now gone, and my mom doesn't remember anything anymore.
Yeah, right.
Grandma's gone, Dad's gone, and so I don't know how to get a hold of Annie Barbie, but I've mentioned a couple times, call me, get a hold of me. Life is tough. Life is traumatic. If you do get through the whole pregnancy, birth experience, and you're okay, and you've got a decent disposition going on, there's still trauma that happens all the time. It's still stressful. You're still a tiny little human that would love to do what the big people are doing, and you're told you can't, and no, and you get smacked for things sometimes, or sent to your room, or they're mad at you, and all this stuff that goes on. And little humans don't handle a lot of that stuff very well. They don't understand that stuff very well. Some of them get traumatized really easy. The point, I always am making a point. When I'm going off like this, as my audience knows that know me, I'm always making a point. The point is life is tough. Life is super tough. For some people, it is incomprehensible how tough it is. As I look through this neighborhood of all these people that are struggling so hard, they're struggling with homelessness. They're struggling with addiction to drugs. They're struggling with poverty in a lot of different ways. But at the very root of all of that, what they're struggling with is dealing with the traumas that happened to them long before all these other things happened, where they became homeless, where they became drug addicted, and all of these things. It's the traumas that they've suffered that either they don't know how to deal with, or you just flippin' can't deal with. Like, nobody would be able to deal much better than some of the things that happen to some of these people. I mean, just like, holy crap, man, it'll curl your hair when you hear and understand some of the things that have happened to people that they're still surviving through. And the point is, it ain't nobody's business but yours and their individual's business what they do about that. Unless they're striking out or hurting other people, then it becomes other people's business.
Right.
If they're hurting themselves in obvious ways, it can be the business of their friends, their family, with good intentions, with society, with compassionate good intentions.
It's everybody's business.
It's kind of everybody's business to help everybody else, So it's kind of. But if you think you're just going to punish this person out of their behavior, if you just think you can tell them to pull their socks up and get a job and treat them like shit because of it, and decide that they're second-class scum because of, the bad choices that they've made or whatever it is, that's not okay. And that's not okay. And if they decide that they want to try something drastic for themselves that doesn't hurt anybody, but man, they're in pain, they're suffering, it's not anybody's business to tell them no. It might be somebody's business to say, hey, watch out, be careful. We know about this stuff. I've tried it myself. You might have a different experience, but be careful. That's all great. Yeah. But, somebody thinking that they're going to help somebody by forcing them in ways that degrade them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That does not work.
Pushes them further down the hopeless road.
Makes it worse.
Yeah.
So what you've been working on for a while here is this area of human thought and endeavor and trying to work these traumas out, which is the use of psychedelics, which have been known to help people profoundly, anecdotally, but also clinically. These things have potential and great power to help people in great distress.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And it's been an area of our existence where our governments have seen fit to make these things illegal and to prevent access and punish people for getting access to them. I think it goes back to the prohibition of weed myself, and what happened with that. That they decided that if they can prohibit that plant, they can prohibit anything.
I think a lot of like LSD and that act was to do with the war at the time. The hippies, and the freedom is what they're going for, and they were deterring from people from going to war, wanting to go to war.
Right.
With the sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
That's right.
Right. So that was the major
it was some
factor.
Some of that critical thinking that happens when you
freedom of thought. Yeah.
And
have that.
And you can't have those people, thinking
Yeah.
about whether they should or shouldn't
Talking
go and
about
shoot
love and shit. No,
Yeah.
that's not good.
people. No, you need to be focused on how much
Yeah.
we're afraid of these other people, and if we don't kill them, they're going to come and take
Yeah.
our families.
Yeah, for sure.
And some of that might be true. I don't know.
There's a new Tyrant book.
But it's not their right to
handbook
do
out
that.
on Netflix. The Tyrant Handbook. It's called.
I've been told about
But
that.
I didn't notice that. I haven't seen any Americans presidents put in there. But it sounds like the whole play to me.
I mean, there's been
Yeah.
playbooks for how to be a tyrant for a while.
Yeah.
I haven't had personal experience with the one you're talking
Yeah.
about, other than what I've
Things
been
are
told
going
about it.
sideways. Wartime.
What I did glean from what I was told about it is that it's not easy and it's not fun to be a tyrant.
No.
It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
It's
No.
hard
It
work.
doesn't end well
It doesn't
usually.
usually end well. It's hard work.
Yeah.
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 The drivers for being a tyrant are usually having been terrorized.
Self-egoist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're lucky if you're not driven to want to be somebody who wants to be a tyrant. And apparently there's a fair amount of murder involved. It's kind of like the go-to.
Yeah.
It's the number one go-to to deal with shit.
For sure. You're gonna whack everybody when you get into power, especially your closest friends. They say, right? Because they're the most likely to come and be the next.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you need to strike fear into the next insider to allow in.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
And tyranny comes in many different realms, from just one-on-one couple relationships to families to clans to communities to corporations and countries, and it comes in many forms. But how to be a tyrant.
No more one.
And so, how to be a tyrant would be if this person that you want to monopolize and manipulate and exploit is becoming resistant, and they want more and more time off to smoke. You'd reduce their ability to smoke.
Yeah. What did Bryce land? A 4-day work week. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like it.
They just took pay cuts too. A lot of the.
It's a big
politicians.
change,
Yeah.
but I think it can be done. I think
Yeah.
we can do anything. I think we found out we can do anything.
Yeah. There's lots of progressive places in the world. Do really well for their citizens first.
Yeah.
Some of them take buses to work every day.
Well,
As a public servant, they ride the pub. That's what they do. They're there
There's
for the
models
people.
where buses are paid for by business because business wants people to get on a bus and go to their stores, and business wants people to get on a bus and go to school, and all of that. It benefits business. Is the reason that businesses would decide that they want to chip in on stuff. I thought that was an interesting way to do things as well. The homelessness side of things, I think, for me, is the most important one to deal with first, after we get easy access to medical cannabis.
Yeah, for sure.
Even the homeless.
Yeah.
But living on the streets, especially with health issues.
Yeah, no, they need buildings with showers, and they make it very tough on public washrooms and things like that.
It's this crazy kind of. I mean, it's not crazy. I mean, you
Okay,
can understand the mindset of people who don't want to enable people
Right.
to be poor or to be idle. Everybody needs to work for themselves, and those that don't, they shouldn't be encouraged by giving out free food. I found out that there was companies that were wanting restaurants that were wanting to feed people, and yet they were denied that right by the Parks Board, and the reason wasn't because maybe the food is unsafe, which I know has been used to prevent individuals from baking things and giving them out. They try to stop people from doing that, even though there's not much problems that arise from that. And there could probably be some easy ways to just make sure it's okay. But that wasn't the motivation. The motivation is we don't want to encourage people to be homeless. So we don't want to feed them.
Right.
We don't want to feed them. They're hungry. There's a bunch of hungry people over there.
Yeah. Don't give
But we don't want to give them any food because, if we don't give them food, then they're just going to have to go get a job, aren't they?
Yeah. Don't feed the bears.
And, you can sort of understand where that mindset comes from a little bit.
Yeah.
But
There is some logic to certain, but I think it's an individual thing. There's always going to be people that are bad people, or people that just
Take advantage.
or take advantage, for sure. There's lots
will.
of that. But I think the more people take care of other people, and the less poverty is, there's gonna be less people taking advantage of other people, or are gonna have to be in that situation
That's
or
right.
want to be in that situation because they're gonna be
If you're
so far out the
That's
norm. They're gonna be wanting to
If
be
you're
like
fine, you don't need to take advantage
Yeah.
of situations like that. I mean, who
Yeah.
wants to stand in a lineup to get free food, really,
Yeah.
if you don't have to? If you can, have it delivered
Right.
to you because you have the resources to do that. or
Yeah, I
whatever.
remember lining up for our own Christmas presents at Welfare with my mom. I just remember watching her. It was like painful.
Yeah. So we could solve some of that. I'm results-oriented type person. That's who I am. I know there's logical reasons for lots of things. And there's logical reasons to be like pissed off and disgusted with this whole world. Really, just there's story after story after story of things that just disgust the hell out of me.
Yeah, I hear you. Lots of good stuff.
Governments abusing their power, corporations manipulating governments to hurt people so they can make money. It's mostly about money, mostly about corruption.
Fucked up what they do.
But-
Entire countries, they cause genocide. It's fucked up,
People
man.
die. People are they
All from
totally-
words, man. And a little
crazy.
propaganda. Yeah.
So yeah, and so there's reasons to be upset like that, but that's no way to live. And bottom line for me is that's no way to be effective in changing things. I'm not effective in changing things if I'm so pissed off, if I'm so depressed, if I'm just sick about how bad things are, and angry to the point of not being able to think straight. And you know how people obsess about shit.
Yeah.
All that stuff doesn't help.
No.
So, therefore, just because you can be pissed off and miserable about about enough stuff, there's enough stuff to keep you. You don't have a moment of happiness because there's just no time for it. And it's truth. It's truth.
It's
How the
true.
fuck can you be happy? No,
Yeah,
anybody, I'm
no.
serious. How can you
It
be
is
happy?
hard,
How can you
man.
be happy
No
with all this
personal
crazy,
experience.
terrible, horrible stuff going on? What we just found out about our Indigenous brothers and sisters and the way they
Yeah.
live, which you all knew, but I mean, it's even worse when you
Did
really
see
know.
that,
Oh
did you
my
see that
God.
talk on CBC where they addressed Lemieux and Trudeau?
I didn't
That
look
girl
at
was really good, man. She kept telling those reporters, quit
The truth
trying to
is being
sidetrack-
spoken.
They got the CBC reporters in there, and they're trying to sidetrack it to election questions instead of dealing with, and they held up a couple pictures of some of the priests, and the church is hiding them in France. And it's fucked up, man.
There's a lot of people
Yeah.
squirming.
Yeah,
lot of
they
truths
didn't
being
pay their
told.
last settlement. Yeah,
So that's what I mean. My point
yeah.
is there's enough to really be so disgusted and upset about that not a moment's opportunity. Like you are when you're mourning, eh? When something
Yeah.
really horrible happens, you lose your
Yeah.
family. For
You know,
a
she
while,
said,
you get
caused,
no peace. You get zero peace. You don't get any time and you
Entire
can laugh.
communities, they have no love, like in the whole community.
And I think it's
And that's sad,
so
man.
important in life, and so important in accomplishing, moving forward, in fixing things, is to just be able to let stuff go, and to focus on the positive, focus on what's positive, what we can do to fix things. Because I myself get bogged right down in depression and inability to function properly.
I hear ya.
When I get focused like that. So I don't let anger rule the day for me. I feel it. I allow myself to experience what it is that drives me. I'm very upset about some things. I'm very upset about this homelessness thing. And so the point for me, the real point that I'm getting to is that there's good logical reason why you wouldn't just want to give somebody a place to live when other people work hard for their places to live. And this person didn't have the wherewithal to go get a job. And he maybe could have or she maybe could have, but didn't. And now we're going to give her a place to live. And we're going to give her these other things that are going to help her be okay in her life. But the cost to society of just either punishing these people or leaving them to their own failures is too great. It's far
I'm gonna
greater.
be there soon. I can't find a place, man.
It's hard, isn't
I
it?
got cash and they won't rent to me. They Google me.
I think.
Fortunately,
I'm hoping-
it keeps that.
well,
but
there must
yeah,
be
man,
there
it's,
must be some opportunity.
There'll be someone out there that thinks it's cool.
Yeah, there will.
I just gotta
There is our
find them, and I
community
hope
here.
they hurry up and pop themselves out. I need a place to go.
I think it's a process. It's always for me been a process. You get told no several different times in several different ways. You change your approach a little bit. You change your target a little bit, and it'll happen. And the right place will come. For me, in the past, I've mostly ended up in places and situations where I thought, I'm glad I didn't take those other situations that I thought I wanted to get.
Yeah.
But, somebody
I'm very out and open. I want them to know. I pull up in that truck.
That's right.
I don't want to have to live under.
You don't want to start out with a lie.
Right, exactly.
It's no way to live at all.
Yeah.
You're proud of what
Especially
you do.
at those prices, dude. You know what I mean?
The one you posted was a lot, but I think you said there was 5 bedrooms.
Yeah, well,
so that would
yeah.
you get 5 friends to share it.
Yeah, I
Lots
can't
of
do
people
that.
do that.
I need,
And that's how they can afford
I need
that.
a bunch of space for
Right.
businesses is what I need and all my
Well,
stuff.
your businesses are each going to have to be considered a friend with money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can't
yeah.
do it. I'm persistent and I'm going to get what I want.
Yeah, well, your businesses will be profitable, and when they are, then you can afford that kind of stuff, and you know that, and that's how it's all going to work.
Yeah.
But I know too. I went to try to get an Airbnb because it was hot, and I had a place recommended to me, but I was told don't talk about weed when I got there, and so I get there, and she was so persistent. What do you do? I said, import export.
Yeah, that's good, buddy.
Yeah, well, it worked in Seinfeld, but it didn't work for me.
No,
Because then she wants to know further, and this and that. So, and then, wants my driver's license. She's punching it into the computer.
Yeah.
I said, I've been an advocate for sane drug policy for quite a while. She goes, yeah, it says here you're trying to help people get off of opioids with cannabis. I said, that's one of the things I've been doing, And, well, no, I'm just not comfortable renting to you. I said, really? Why would that be? I'm not going to do drugs or anything. I'm not a drug user. I'm somebody that, well, I think maybe you might use cannabis. Why would I use cannabis in your place?
Hey, what the fuck? I thought it was legal.
Well, and I wouldn't anyway. Unless it's explicitly said that you could, I wouldn't. Unless I'm in a 420 friendly place. I said I spend a fair amount of time in hotels.
I go outside even,
Yes, I spend a fair amount of time in hotels. I never smoke in the hotels, I go outside, I go sit in my car or whatever, right? But if I have to at all.
You look like a party animal, man, I gotta say.
I guess, I said I would totally respect your space. She said, keep it down with my neighbors.
Oh my god.
I
just would have been gone right there,
and
man.
she's maneuvering. She's maneuvering to get to the doors, and I'm wanting to explain myself because I always take every opportunity to explain myself, and especially if she's got some thoughts that aren't good about what I might be doing, I want her to understand what it is that I'm doing.
Right.
Because I'm really proud of myself. I think it's a great thing to be doing, and cannabis is a biblical God's gift to mankind. That in this case has the potential to rescue people from hard drug addiction, and the addiction being they can't get through withdrawal, and high dose edibles will get you through withdrawal. And so, the stigma and all this stuff against it, I'm not preaching to you, Jerry, because you're right with me. It's just been orchestrated over the years to demonize a plant that other people don't want to compete with and don't want people using for its spiritual and medical value for their own profit. So I want her to understand all of that stuff, how I came into this. And so I was gently, properly explaining myself as I was following her lead and, leaving the space and heading back out to my car. But she was like, shh, I don't want my neighbors. Yeah. It's crazy. That's got to stop. That's got to be addressed.
Yeah.
One of these days we'll spend some time on why we deserve an apology and who should be apologizing and what they should be apologizing for, because that needs to be talked about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so we didn't talk too much yet, so I still want to talk a bit about what's going on with MindTech and microdelics, and the proper websites for people to check you out are what?
Mindtech.ca for Mindtech Therapeutics. That's the.
And what will they find there?
That'll be a biopharmaceutical company, but also with a freedom of thought core challenge. So we'll challenge the government on freedom of thought. Really.
So you'll be providing access to people to help them microdose with psychedelics.
I think we're with the MindTech we're just going to go with freedom of thought, so we can legalize it both for.
So the MindTech
the whole thing.
.ca is not the one to get access to. It's the microdelics.
Right, microdelics.ca. Yeah.
Okay. So with the MindTech, like you say, that's about a court challenge. So that's about gathering people's stories and affidavits.
We will be doing that in the future. It's not just court challenge. MindTech's a business. Create biopharmaceutical, psychedelic biopharmaceuticals.
That would be available at some point.
So LSD,
through the website?
5-MA. Well, it wouldn't be available directly through the web, so we're going to have to go through the court challenge and get them legal. But in the meantime, we're going to research, do human studies, and develop different drugs.
And there's some opportunity for people to get involved with that.
for sure. Yeah, for sure there will be in the future, and especially with the court case, I'm hoping to have that up in the next couple of weeks or so. I'm meeting Dr. Goyle after I leave here, and then hopefully Dr. Hudson tomorrow to talk a bit of lab.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Moving forward.
Yeah.
I like the way you got your truck wrapped there. That's
See
awesome.
my new seats?
No, that's what it's out there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna go out there in just a minute. You don't have to wait for me this time. You know, when I wrap here with you, then we'll go outside there.
Yeah.
Just do a brief introduction there or
I got the
update before I go.
Dancing Bear psychedelic seat covers
Nice.
that are on the LSD.
So, do they get the cop high when he looks in your window? Do they ask you?
Oh, they look, man. Sometimes they look.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And they follow me, too. But I haven't had any Jet. Thought for sure, man. I got followed forever the other day.
Do you have cameras in your car that would record such an encounter?
No,
That might
I
be a
should
thought.
get some for sure.
In fact, that might be an idea just for other people too, because you probably have a lot of people coming up and wanting to know what it's about.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I had one guy pull up at the lights. Got any free samples? I gave him a microdose shit. He's like,
Nice.
Yeah, I tossed it into his fucking.
Now you're gonna have people chasing you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, really old East Indian guy. When I got my COVID shot, whatever, I got to travel. But yeah, I come out. He's like, no, that was a truck. Hey, he's got like long hair. Yeah, you know.
A guru.
So I gave him, so I gave him and his wife some free samples. Yeah.
I think those people trip on stuff.
Oh, a lot. Half 50% probably of my clients are from some other ethnic,
They got
background,
Bang
for sure.
over there. You know, it's
Yeah.
a cannabis infused. I don't know if it would be. Someone
Well,
described
a
it
lot
as a
of them are
milkshake.
in the
but it's not a
tech world. They're
milkshake.
very smart. And the microdosing is huge in the tech world, right? So yeah.
I hoped that today I'd wake up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed because I did some more mushrooms last night, and I upped the dose to 1 1/4 grams.
Oh, yeah.
I put 3 different types of mushrooms together,
Oh, yeah.
and I don't know if you're supposed to do that or if that's a thing, but I did.
Sure, it's a thing.
Boy, I got really buzzed. I'll tell you,
Yeah,
I was buzzing for. I did it too late at night. I did it at 10 o'clock at night.
Oh, yeah.
So probably still around 3 in the morning. I was still feeling really buzzing, and the problem was I did not wake up feeling refreshed. And,
lack of sleep. Yeah, sometimes after doing a lot of mushrooms, you need a day to recover, right?
I've been having some good success with them, and I really have been waking up feeling a lot more
That
refreshed.
is one of the things
Depending on the strain.
Mindtech will be working on actually too, is some non-pharmaceutical drugs that are going to help you either enhance or recover from your particular, drug of choice, psychedelic drug of choice. So yeah.
Maybe I should have drank more water. I didn't drink much water. I had a root beer float.
Yeah.
I decided it was a drink of choice for
Yeah.
the second time.
Yeah.
After doing
I
that.
probably didn't do that.
It's
I like
fine.
chili cheese fries.
But I just didn't wake up feeling great this morning.
Let's have 11 chili cheese fries, man.
Yeah,
Or
and I
those chips are good.
Yep, it was very interesting. Like I say, I think it's very much strain related. There's a different effect with different strains for sure. The White Wizards, when I do those at night, I sleep well and I wake up feeling like I don't want to go back and sleep more. And lots of times when I wake up in the morning, I want another hour.
Right.
Like, can I have another hour?
Oh, that's great. Up the crack of noon.
But but sometimes when I do the mushrooms, I wake up early and I start getting a bunch of shit done. And
yeah, that's what I'm like if I
So-
microdose right away.
But
20
not-
minutes, I'm up, I'm moving around.
penis envy,
Out of
not
my
so
head.
much at all. Penis envy,
I need someone
I-
there forcing the shit down me in the morning and in the evening.
Well, so there's a lot to be figured out about how they work.
Yeah.
The differences between the different strains and stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot to figure out. You're gonna be
Different
involved-
psychedelics in general, man, can do many different things. you
Right.
know.
Well, and with psilocybin mushrooms, there's how many different ones, right? There's a ton of
Yeah,
different.
there's tons.
Tons and tons. And there again, maybe it's like cannabis strains. I'm sure it is to a large degree, where individual people are going to have different reactions to different things in ways.
Brazilian, Costa Rican, Daddy Long Leg, Full Moon Party, Epic, Amazonian, South American, Wally Gang. There's some strains for you.
And I just wonder, how drastic the differences are between these strains.
Yeah, well, they're grown in different parts of the world.
And what those
originally,
differences would be.
And a lot of them are bred, interbred. I find a lot of the mushroom growers are doing that. We're trying to come out with their own, their own strain right now, which is where a lot of these names are coming from. Yeah.
So there's a lot of room for experimentation.
For sure. They want to get in there early, because Section 7s are happening now. Therasil's taking the government to court for Section 7 so they can provide it to patients as well. Paul's our lawyer.
Right.
Which is good. So.
And there's also several other jurisdictions around the world that are working on different aspects of it as well. And I think a lot of that's going to come together.
Yeah.
It really looks like the whole access to mushrooms is going to be quicker than access to weed.
From
a legal point of view, anyway.
For therapeutic, well, that's why we want to do the freedom of thought case, because if we let them choose the rules, then it's going to be in-house probably for God knows how many years.
I want to talk about it. I want to see talk about it in the media about our governments controlling these substances, but what they're really controlling is your ability to access your mind and to alter your own thoughts. Like they're really putting limits on what you're able to do with your
if there's a
freedom of
health
thought.
concern with something, you may want to limit that. If there's it causes death, there's something.
Well, you want to regulate it.
Yeah.
That's when you want to regulate it.
That's
when you want the government to say, okay, we've done good due diligence. We've determined that this particular stuff at this particular dose is really dangerous for people.
That's it. It's just education, right?
It's just education.
It doesn't matter, they're just going to buy 2 or 3 packages if they really want to use a lot.
Sure.
Right? So,
absolutely.
So, it all comes down to education and the person that's doing it. If they want to, take the education and go ahead and risk it anyways,
if they really told the truth. If they used an evidence-based approach, a non-biased, unstigmatized, evidence-based approach, and they just told the truth. There is a drug. It was like not mad, but there was another one and they were bullshitting the kids. Like everything was bullshit, total fear-based, and they found that nobody was listening to them. None of the kids, they were all still getting addicted and using drugs. Because nobody trusts them.
So they changed it, and they went straight up honest, and their numbers totally changed.
That's right. That's what we want from these public.
Kids get lied to, and they're fuck you, and I'm going to believe anything you say. All right?
That's right. But if you understood that they were going to tell you the truth, and that there were some dangers to things, that would be so much better. We could trust them. We want to know these things. Nobody's really trying to kill themselves.
On TV and the media every day, that'd be a big help too.
I know the media's hugely responsible for the
they
continued
fuel the
stigmatization.
drugs and the violence.
They profit off it.
Yeah.
The whole drug war has been a gravy train.
There's lots of good shit happening. You could fill up at least half the show with.
That's
right.
right.
Yeah. People watch it still. Right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. And it'd be way better for them if they did. The news is so depressing.
It's all. I don't really watch TV. I'll watch movies or whatever. But
I know lots of people. They won't watch it because they don't want to watch the news.
No,
it's too
just
depressing.
bad news.
Always bad news. Well, that's the problem. The media has an agenda.
Yeah.
At the high end of it, they have an agenda. And their agenda is somewhat aligned with the corporate agenda.
Yeah.
So can't trust them. Too bad.
Yeah.
Well, Jerry, that was fun.
Yeah.
Stick with me for a minute here, because I want to see your seats.
Oh
in the
yeah.
truck.
Yeah.
I'm sure they all want to see the seats in the truck too.
Sure. Yeah.
But before we go out there, I'll tell you why we're going out there. I'll tell you what this is all about. I'll try to be brief. This space here was a walk-in storefront dispensary for 4.5 months, dating back to 13 months ago when we opened the doors. We did that acting in good faith because the city of Vancouver had passed a motion and met with us and saying that they would support low barrier access and what we were doing. And that's low cost and no cost cannabis, specifically to address the overdose crisis. And because of the work that we had been doing through the Cannabis Substitution Project, which has now become a program, and having people come to VANDU, the Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users Offices, just up from Main and Hastings, and meet there and get care packs of high-dose edibles with the intention of helping them get off of opioids by the high-dose edibles getting them through the withdrawal, and then maintaining that. So we did that for 3.5 years before we opened the storefront, twice a week for the last 2.5 years of it, about 300 care packs every time. And so having met with the city, having understood that we would find a storefront and move our project inside, start providing low barrier access, we did that. The city then wouldn't give us a license or support in any official fashion until we got support from eventually the federal government, the provincial government, who they thought we should get permission from. But it turns out what we're doing here is absolutely medical. That's the jurisdiction of the Canadian federal government. And so we very quickly put together an application with the help of John Conroy and Jack Lloyd, and applied under an emergency basis to Health Canada and the federal health minister to provide us with a temporary exemption and licenses eventually to be able to continue doing what we're doing in providing low barrier access to cannabis. That did not happen in a timely fashion. Our landlord ended up evicting us for not having a license and still continuing to operate a business. He felt he was at risk for doing that. And so we procured an RV and moved our 6-day-a-week, 8-hour-a-day storefront from this space to the RV and parked it on the curb out front. We did endure a raid by the VPD 2 weeks later as their anti-vending unit came along, and we had signs up all over the RV and a tent up, and they seized a lot of product from us. But in the end, there's been an unspoken truce, so it's been 8 months, more than that, 9 months now since that raid happened. We were threatened, actually, a couple of weeks later by the VPD, told that we should stop what we're doing until we get permission. But we explained that we can't stop what we're doing because people rely on us. The project became a program where people became members. Anytime over the course of those time periods that we're open, they can come and get 420 milligrams every 4 days, and they rely on us for that, to the point where the medical experts in the field, Dr. Zachary Walsh, Dr. M.J. Malloy, both have written us letters stating clearly that they believe people will be put at risk of death if we stop. So we haven't stopped, and we're still out there, and we're still waiting for Health Canada, who told us before Christmas it would be probably early January, who then told us in late March that we should just be patient, and we are still being patient, but certainly somewhat frustrated with just how slow this whole thing is, because people could be served way better if we were able to do what we were doing from the store. So we're going to go outside and see what's going on with the RV and check in with the people there, and that's what I know. Welcome to sunny Vancouver, downtown east side. We're about 1 block away from Hastings and Maine.
Oh, excuse me.
And this is where we have our RV parked that we help people get access to. I'd like to take a minute just to mention that there's other cannabis substitution projects that are underway. In Halifax, Chris Backer and his team of volunteers and donators have been doing great work there for over 1.5 years in providing care packs of high-dose edibles. Excuse me too, cannabis cough. And Mary McCarty in London, Ontario, Geez, I should have checked with Mary if this is the 11th or 12th week that she's been doing it since she left us. She was our head baker here for quite a while. We love Mary so much, and she provided a great example of people and of how to provide for us as the donators. And we've had other people take her lead and step up and supply us here so that we can continue the project. And she's been doing great there. I think she's had 150 people today. She does it every Tuesday. Chris in Halifax does it every Monday. There was an encounter with an officer of the law a couple of weeks ago now that sort of threatened Mary, told her what she was doing was illegal, but she educated that officer and told that officer to get educated, and that looks like that's happened. So because there's been no sign of her since, and Mary's program is still going strong. So thanks, Mary. Thanks, Chris. You guys are awesome. Chris, I know you've not been feeling well. I hope you feel better, buddy. I was really sorry to hear that. I'm glad that you had people around you to step up and make it work. And like I said, I hope you're feeling really good real soon. You deserve it. And so, yeah, let's go see what Jerry Martin's got going on with his incredible little fire here. What's that? Okay. Doesn't want to be seen. That's okay. Cool. Future of psychedelic medicines. Mind Tech Therapeutics. Oh, man. Roll your window down. Oh, yeah. Put the keys in? It's okay, but it's just a better view for the camera that way. Check those seats out. Oh, man, that's awesome. I'm tripping. That's awesome, dude. Beautiful.
Free your mind on the back.
Free your mind. Back corner over here. Wow, that's fantastic. It's going to get some attention of some people, hopefully. Because, like I say, it's important that we have this conversation, eh?
Yeah.
Like, it's really important that people start talking about this and thinking about this, because, as government's gaining more and more ability to have oversight and control of us, we need to protect our ability to have control over ourselves and to not let them, prevent us from doing what we need to do for ourselves. And so many people have suffered the traumas of life, from the very beginning to, wherever they are in their life. And with psychedelics, with the mushrooms and other plant medicines being a real way out for people of the suffering that they have because of these things that they've had to go through, we need to have this talked about. So
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Yeah.
So
Times are changing.
they are.
Yeah.
And court date coming up, but you don't have it yet. One day we'll take them to court. You hear that, government? We're going to take you to court and make you justify yourself. Why you think you get to tell us what plants we could ingest because of what thoughts we might think? Because of what journey of consciousness we might have? And one of the things you're kind of appealing to people is that you want their stories. If they're passionate about some profound experience that they had with these things, those are stories that will help you as you put together your case.
Yeah,
and some of those people, they can, if they want, if they're very passionate about it, they want to help other people get access, they could maybe take part in studies.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. It's just putting something on the website where people can share their experience anonymously or add their names for we actually already had a bit of a study they can do. Fill out and then just check a box if they want to be part of an upcoming court case. So we'll be adding that back on there too.
Awesome. That's great that people have that opportunity, because I know so many people want to tell you, hey man, I was all messed up and then I did this and
pull over the other day says, hey man, I got PSD and that stuff. So it's like
they're very enthusiastic.
Yeah.
They want to get that out there. They'd like other people to have that ability. So
freedom of expression,
it's all part of freedom.
Yeah.
It's a huge part of freedom.
You can't talk about something and how are you free?
What could be more a part about freedom than your freedom to think?
Yeah.
Whenever you think about, maybe they'll put me in a cage, or when I think about that, maybe I could put in a cage one day for what I'm doing here. Well, they can't take away my ability to think.
You think you
know?
Yeah.
But in limiting the access to the things that help you think better, that clear your mind, and those things, they are
And so
taking away your ability
a lot
to
of people
think.
don't have cannabis and they don't have psychedelics, so their freedom of thought is taken away.
That's right.
You know,
They're options.
yeah,
They're options.
yeah.
Exactly. All right. So thanks, Jerry.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week. Let's knock on the back door. See if that helps. See what that does. Those old herb school people, you'll recognize the knock. Ah,
You know the
and it
code?
still works. That's the code. Hi, Andrew.
How's it going?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Not bad.
Is it hot in there?
Yes, this is what the government has reduced us to. The tray has nothing in it because it melts. Because we're out here, because the government put us out here.
That's right. If we were in the
And we
store,
have to
we'd
be
have in the
here
cooler.
until they make a ruling that we can go back. Well, hurry up and do that because we're waiting.
So we do have a cooler inside there, but it's not an electric
No,
cooler. It's-
right here I have this. This is what they've reduced us to. I have one in here.
Okay.
I have one bottle of ice cold water.
Oh man, is this
It's
everything?
ice. And I put gummies in it, and I put the gummies on top. If I don't, they start melting.
But we've got brownies and we got cookies. And
We have cookies, we have brownies, we have caramels, we have 200 milligram chocolates, we have 100 milligram chocolates, we have gummies that are 50 milligram squares, we have some pills that are 20 milligrams hybrids. We have everything you need.
we have it.
Yes.
We just don't have it in a display for you
No.
like we normally do because it's too warm and things are melting, and so we have them either in this cooler or we have another cooler in there with ice in it
That's
as
how we
well.
deal with the
And we've got a cooler in our shop and actually a refrigerator in our shop. But yeah, I agree with you. And Andrew's just kind of voicing the frustration that we feel here every day. Is that the government could have acted on this easy. It's just a signature on a piece of paper. We just asked for an emergency exemption, a temporary exemption, to do what we've been doing for all these years.
You guys
Over
have
4
thrown
years.
You guys have thrown these people away, and we're here to help with your problem that you're not taking care of. It's a mess out there, so we have to fix it for you. And nobody's ever been down here to see what we're doing.
That's
Come
right.
on
We've
down.
had no government people
No.
down here. They don't come and meet the people or meet us or understand what it is that's so important down here that we're willing to risk our or whatever it is
Yeah,
they're threatening
exactly.
us with. They said they're going to arrest me,
I'm here until the
seize
I'm
my
here until
vehicle.
they come, right?
But because it's just so important, and anybody with a half a conscience that comes down here would within an hour say, "Thank you, folks, for being here doing this, and please don't stop no matter what. And how can I help you?" And that's
I've
just
had
what.
so many people say today, thank you very much for being here and you're doing what you're doing. I appreciate it. It's excellent. And that's what we need.
Yeah.
We need the government to come down and say, hey, you're doing something great. Here's your exemption, right, for now. And we'll get things straightened out in a little bit. Now you guys can go back.
John
and do your
Conroy
story.
did such a fantastic job of writing all that down, doing exactly what Andrew just said. He made it very clear, hey, what we're doing is really super great. We're rescuing people from drug addiction and saving their lives and bettering their lives.
Yeah.
And it should be really easy for you to just look through the submission that we have. I mean, any 2 pages of the 100 pages would probably be enough, but if you read all 100, well, then it's real easy to understand.
Yeah, yeah.
We need to keep doing what we're doing. We just need a little bit of government support. Although we don't really need government support because we're doing it without them. But a government support at any level would allow us to do so much more than what we're able
Support
to
us
do.
and we'll support you, and we'll do what we're supposed to be doing out here, right? So you guys won't have to see this. We're rescuing people slowly at a time, right?
From an RV, but
Yeah, from an RV, and we'll be here until they give us
until they give us the store back.
until they give us what we need. Yeah,
And then we'll probably still have the RV.
probably. Yeah,
We'll bring the RV somewhere else where we can do outreach
we're
or
here to
something.
help people.
But the bottom line is they need to support us in having a storefront for easy access for people here to prevent the deaths that are happening. And we can prevent a lot of them by having cannabis easily accessible in high dose edibles. We can prevent a lot of the deaths. But we could use their help. We need their help. The media, if they would report properly on the government supporting us in opening storefronts and having outreach vehicles, and that became a very well-known thing amongst the public, that easy access to high-dose edibles can get you through the withdrawal from the opioids and can then replace those opioids in a way that make your life so much better. That would change the world. But we need the story told, and we need the government to be on board to be able to tell that story. So there we go. We're coming back in the other way.
Okay,
right.
thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll take a peek at what's going on this way. Hello. Smiling. What's going on?
I just told a dirty joke.
Oh, dear.
You missed it.
Well, there'll be no dirty jokes. My aunt's watching. Dirty jokes will not happen here.
Okay, we have Lysol.
We have Lysol.
Well, wash your mouth
I
out
was
before
just
you
going to say, I have a bar of soap. You know, did you ever have that happen when you were young?
Yes, I
I did too. Did you have that happen to you too, George?
liquid soap.
Liquid?
Yeah.
I had the bar. I never had the liquid.
Oh yeah, I got.
How about you, Andrew? Any soap in the mouth when you were growing up?
For me.
I see. So what do we got here?
Angel growing up or something?
Neil, my wonderful producer, are you going to join the 1 in 4 or 3 in 4? Did you have soap in your mouth?
No.
Never-
I tried it as a taste.
You tried it.
Because I was curious to see how bad was this punishment really.
Did they threaten you?
No, I just
Hi,
didn't.
Paul.
No,
They didn't even threaten you?
bar of soap, or did you actually shove it in your mouth?
I ate some. I drank some soap. I bit into a bar of soap.
Did you poop bubbles?
I tried a few. I didn't really like it. I never did it again.
Tell me you didn't do the Tide Pods.
Never.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the modern day one is Tide Pods.
Yeah.
But they're not doing it for swearing. They're doing it for fun.
Well, yeah, that wasn't a punishment, except stupidity at its best.
That looks tasty. It's colorful and bright like fruit. It must taste good and be good for you. Or candy.
It's a chemical. That
Actually, it
sounds
looks more like-
fantastic.
Yeah, it looks more like
Wait till
candy,
that
right?
caustic chemical starts dissolving your mouth out.
You would think that the government, you know, based on how they treat cannabis, they'd make sure that any candy sold would be plain wrapper with warnings. Couldn't make it all fancy or put colors and shit on that.
The warnings on Tide Pods. Well, they probably do. But
They do.
idiots just still eat them
It
anyway.
says right on the container, do not ingest. Keep away from children. Obviously, they don't.
Yeah. So let's go inside. Hello. Hello. Sound effects. Isn't that great? I got a button right here that I can make her burp anytime I want. I love it. So welcome to the CSP Healing Wave doobie van, reefer van. You know, many different names. The Ganja RV. It's getting many different names. It's a space that we've come to know quite well over the time period here. It's been over 10 months now. Since all of November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, and we're halfway into July. So I guess, why does that only look like 9 months there? So anyway, it's been a long time. It's been so long that we all think we're family now. And it hasn't been that long, George. Oh, this is funny stuff. But, you know, there's a serious side to all of this, and that is that there's a lot of people out here that need help, and there could be a lot more that we could be doing, and we're really hoping that the government gives us permission to do it in ways that you know, make a lot more sense than in a crowded RV where every day we have to talk a little bit about the cops that drive by, or you know, maybe that was an undercover that was at the window, or you know, who knows if they're going to come and seize all of our stuff again. It's no way to live. It's no way that we should have to live. There is absolutely zero justification for this. We have been demonstrating the safety and the effectiveness of what we're doing here for over 4.5 years. We have just an amazing track record. We have given out tens of millions of milligrams of high-dose edibles to people. We've had zero problems. There are people that eat too much for sure. That is the only issue. Eating too much doesn't mean you die. It doesn't mean that you are caused any long-term, you know, illnesses or disabilities in any way, shape, or form. But it's the uncomfortable side of cannabis edibles is the upper limit can be, you know, more than people appreciate, and it can be very uncomfortable. We try to be careful here when dealing with people who are not used to eating cannabis, who don't know what their tolerances are, about making sure that they start low and go slow, so that they don't have a first bad experience. Many people, if they take cannabis too much to begin with in the form of edibles, it's not a fun experience, and they don't want to ever do it again, and that's really a shame, because it can be very helpful to people at the right dose, and so that's very important that we have that going on. But other than the fact that people can eat too much cannabis if they're not sure of their own tolerances, there's really no issues that are negative to do with people being provided cannabis. Everybody appreciates what they get from us. They're very appreciative. The higher the dose, the edibles, the better for most people. The other things that we have, the tinctures and the topicals and the suppositories and all those other forms of cannabis, there's never been a problem, never been a complaint. They all are miracle products for people. And so we're able to provide this, and there's no reason why we can't provide it like any other mainstream business from a storefront and allow people to have reasonable access to it. The only reasons that are there when you look into it are the historical prohibitions against cannabis, the lies, the demonization, the criminalization, the stigmatization of people with respect to cannabis that have been going on for decades, all simply designed to exploit people, to control people, to monopolize products and other things, and to pay for a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't need to be paid for, because there never was a scourge of cannabis use. There's never been problems in society that would warrant using the criminal law against it. Never any justification for using armed policemen, for using anything against cannabis. Lots of justification for public servants and governments to provide incentives for people to be able to get cannabis, to make sure the supply chains are easy to access. All of that is what should be happening. The opposite is what has been happening. That's just an expression of the corruption that we're living with as people, as our governments really aren't working for us. They're pretending to work for us, and they're working for people who really just want to take our money, our energy, and control us. So that's why we're doing what we're doing here. We've been doing it for quite a while, not just us here with the CSP, with Andrew and George and Jen. Did you want to talk anything, by the way? I'm starting to feel like I'm going to say goodbye to the people at home, and I'm going to be like, I should have maybe let those people talk more if they wanted to. But, so, what would you tell us if you had something to say? That's even worse. They put you on the spot. Well, but you know the show's coming, so maybe you had something prepared. I know.
Warm, but we're still here. We're moving here.
Okay, that's.
I've had about 25 people today at CSB, and they all say thank you very much.
Very good.
Every one
We're
of them
very,
said
very
thank
grateful
you.
to have us.
Very grateful to be here. Even the people at the window. We give them a 100 milligram muffin at the window, free. Their eyes light right up.
Yeah.
It's great.
People love us for being here.
They
That's
love
for
it.
sure.
They say 100 milligrams? Holy, for free.
So no prepared statements from the rest of you, just Andrew? No stories to tell?
Melting and smelting.
It's still a good day.
You're all just
It's still a good day. We're here. Gonna
mellow
be here for
yellow,
another day.
mellow
We
green.
could show our little friend.
Right?
Andrew,
Yeah,
come.
let's talk about that just a little bit.
There's our friend.
So this is Johnny B's recent initiative here. It's the Solo Cup Challenge, or Solo Cup Grow Challenge, and he's providing us these plants, and we're giving them to people that want to have them, and that's really awesome. This is ChemDog 6 and Northern Lights, which was a cup winner of Johnny's back in the Prairie Harvest Cup days, and that's awesome of him to do that.
Yeah,
an effort to
made a
overrode
lot of people happy.
this one. Beautiful. So this one, what we do is we just keep it so people can see it, and it actually was a little
We
out
had
of
it over
sight.
there to get some sunlight.
I should bring Johnny on and get him to talk about spectrum and how much sunlight these plants actually need to grow. Not as much as you would think. He's got a number of plants that are growing in complete shade, no direct sunlight whatsoever, and he's got a spectrometer thing that gauges the spectrum, and it's all in the infrared that's coming in there, and they're still growing quite well. So he's experimenting. Johnny's doing a lot of good work for some other companies that are wanting to really understand how these things work, based on strain, based on the genetics of the plant, based on the different spectrums of light. There's so many different spectrums of light and ways to adjust that, and he's working on all that stuff, doing a great job of it. And you can catch him on his show coming up, How's It Growing, on Thursdays.
Friday. Check the archives. He doesn't run every week, but he always pops up based on what he's got in the garden.
So he's not going every week now.
No, he's been busy. He's been so busy.
He's
been
busy.
working on hash stuff. He's had some other things
He's
to deal with.
cloning
Yeah,
like crazy.
he does not. Yeah, and he's giving these cups out. I see him every other day.
He's
He's
like
traveling
He's
around
going-
and handing things out.
He's going everywhere he can think of to hand these plants out. When he doesn't have any other place to go or anybody to hand to, he'll look for people on the side of the road. You know, hey, want a plant? And they're like, really? For me? I've always wanted one. Like, totally. He's telling me these stories of people that are just so grateful, like we're finding here too, that, oh my God, they can actually have a weed plant.
I know
And,
people are in shock. They're like, what? For free? What do you mean?
I know, eh? Well, we have someone else popping up on the show. We could have a show like that where different people pop up in the window.
All too
Oh.
familiar sound down here.
Yeah, another fire truck and not a fire.
Oh, it's probably going into the alley to an overdose down the alley.
Yes, we could have a show where we focus just in the RV here, have a camera that's sort of at the window, but maybe we would have to blur faces. No, we'd get them to sign a release ahead of time, and then we could have all these reoccurring characters that actually come here every day, and they could come on the show and be themselves.
All the time, whoever says they don't in it, you don't show
Just
I know.
get a webcam and set it up and run a thing.
Yeah, we've talked about it, that we might do something like that. It could be a thing. This could be a show one day. Should be a reality show of some
version
sort.
of being a cam girl.
Yeah. Truth. So that's kind of what's going on here.
Membership fees
Um,
to watch.
We will update you again next week, as we always do. In the meantime, Pot TV has a number of other shows on that you can watch sometimes. I'm very grateful for the opportunity that they give me to be able to bring what we're doing here out to the world and let people know, because it's important that we continue the battle for rights and freedoms with respect to the cannabis plant. Low barrier access is how we need to frame it at this point, apparently. That sick people, poor people, all need to have easy access to good cannabis. No reason why they can't have it. It's easy enough to produce, it's easy enough to bring to market, and there can absolutely be good cannabis for people at affordable prices, and connoisseur cannabis for the people that want to spend a lot, and give it to people that deserve a lot because they spent a lot to grow it and they've been experts at it for a long time. All of that can work in the same world, but I'm not going to be satisfied in a world where that's all you can have is the cannabis grown by a select few licensed people that get to grow the cannabis, and nobody else gets to grow it or bring it to market, and no farmer gets to grow it without horrible license fees and restrictions and all the rest of it that makes it prohibitive, just like they did with hemp back in the day. They just made the cost of growing hemp by dealing with the government so much that nobody would do it anymore, and they're trying to do the same thing with cannabis. So we're fighting for low barrier access, we're fighting for freedom, we're fighting for the right to enjoy the cannabis plant. This is all about cannabis. This is cannabis culture. This is Pot TV. And you can catch these other shows, Carly Marley, BC Bud Gal. They're on Mondays, 4 o'clock, with the 420 Lifestyle Show. Show you how much fun you can have with cannabis as they explore all kinds of different fun sides of it. Do we have anything else going on? I mean, is there just Johnny B on Friday?
It's going to be
sometimes
Friday.
now?
We got BC
Thursday
Bud Gal
there's
on
BC Bud Gal
Thursday.
with Morning Glory.
And then things pop up on occasion, so I did a Friday then because there was a news story. There'll be another Friday coming up. Wednesday we may have footage of the there's going to be a protest outside the police station. So, but there's always the archives. So we're always working on stuff. If someone wants to produce a weekly show, get a hold of me. We got some space.
Because Neil's not too busy already. But I really got to thank him for all the effort that he does making this show happen, and all the other shows that he puts together, and all the other things that he does. Neil's a fabulous guy, and I look forward to his future in front of the camera as well down the road. Not even down the road, you can now probably find it in the archives. So thanks to Neil, thanks Pot TV, thanks to all of you for watching the show, for spreading the love, for helping make the world a better place. I hope you're agents of change and moving forward positively in your life. We all need to help each other in this life. There's a lot of trauma that's gone on for all of us. We never know any individual's struggle and journey. We just kind of need to assume that everybody struggles and everybody's on a journey that is unique to them, and that we all deserve respect. So let's be kind to each other. Let's be kind to ourselves. Let's make the world a better place and just have as much fun as you can doing it. See you next week.